All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Sugar, oh honey, honey, you are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you, honey, oh sugar, sugar.
And welcome back to tonight's edition of the X Zone, hour number 2, coming to you from your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. If you'd like to send me an email, the email address is xzone@classic1220.ca. My guest this final hour of tonight's show, X Zone Nation, is Alicja Aratyn, and she does alternative medicine, dowsing, spiritual, and self-development. Joining me from Mississauga, Ontario, just on the other side of Lake Ontario from where St. Catharines is our guest this hour, Alicja, and welcome to the X Zone.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be with you and with all your audience.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Alicja. What was it that made you want to go into alternative medicine, dowsing, spiritual, and self-development?
Well, it was quite a long time ago because in about a month will be my birthday and I will be 73. So
God bless you.
It's kind of almost a century when I'm here. But it all started really when I was relatively young girl in high school, living still in Poland. And it was 1968 when there is a humongous students' movement in Warsaw, or in all Poland, but one of those movements which ended up with solidarity later on and changing the situation, economical and political situation in this part of Europe. And I was first time in my life, I was interested in the simple problem, theoretically. What makes people to go together and do things which are dangerous?
And what did you find out?
Well, I found out, so I started to, my brother at that time just started a polytechnical university in Warsaw. And he attended all those uprising and riots and things like this, and all his friends, of course. We had curfew because I was in high school, so we had curfew at that time. And I had an opportunity to read a lot of books on philosophy and on just psychology of the crowd. And that first time showed me how people are connected. And what we found today in entanglement, for example, theory, I could not really fully understand, but observe this, how contagious, in a sense, the heroism and patriotism is. And because from very early age, I saw things on invisible level of life, different, kind of like Sixth Sense, if you would recall this movie.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
And it was very scary, those pictures. And I remember that being young girl, very young child, really, I promised myself that when I will be bigger, when I grow up, I will understand why things happen the way they happened. And why do I see those things? What is going on? Why other people cannot see them? And so on and so on. So that was my beginning. Then I became an engineer, and I'm an environmental engineer by training on Warsaw University, Polytechnical University. Before that, I became a chemist. And just because I thought, when I was at school, I thought that if I will study chemistry, I will understand the universe because everything is based on numbers. Well, that was a huge mistake. So I left chemistry and I switched just because I was always interested in books and reading books and literature. So I started to work as an editor in publishing house.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I was, and for quite a numbers of years, 7 years, I think, I was editing books about theater and movie. At that time in Poland, there was a very active theatrical movement, students movement, which was known across the Europe for this heroism and talking about things which are not very well received on our part of the Europe. So I was actively kind of involved in it. And then I decided that it's time for me to go somewhere else, just because after Solidarity, the things changed the way I didn't like much. So I decided that is time to leave. And I came to Canada. My husband also, my ex-husband also played a role in it, just because our marriage fell.
And that's why he is now an ex.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So because he's a lawyer, I hope he's still alive and employed and still a lawyer. I went through hell here.
Oh, geez, no.
And just because I was also fighting for my son to be with me here, and he didn't want to, he just did everything possible to make my life harder. But that's fine because it brought me where I am, and all this really, this interest, there's my visions from the childhood and reading and going through all these movements in Poland brought me to turning my interest into energy when I came here. There was no work for engineer. I came to Canada in 1989. So it was depression or recession. I don't remember which description is more proper for this time. But anyway, there was no work for engineers. Forget women engineers. So I decided to turn my hobby into my profession, and then I stayed with it. Just because I realized that many things are differently described, understood, and pursued in Europe than here. And one of those things is dowsing. So I decided to start to teach because people wanted to know what is the difference and why I do things the way I do in dowsing. And that's the beginning of my life here.
Well, we're glad you're here in Canada.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. My grandmother was from Warsaw as well.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I was raised on Golumki. I was raised on potato pancakes.
That's right.
Yeah, I had a great childhood. My grandmother was a fantastic cook, and she was the most wonderful lady that I've ever known. So welcome to Canada, and God bless you.
It's my great pleasure to be here. I really, really love this country, and my son who who came here a year and a half after me,
Right.
finally, he always says that he's very, very glad that he ended up here and he didn't stay there. So,
Alicja, how would you describe dowsing to somebody? What is dowsing?
well, dowsing is a way of communication with everything what is invisible. And the beauty of dowsing is that each of us has an energy in us, of course, and we use this energy to everyday activities during the day. But we can also get more energy from the universe. And that's what I don't want to compare myself with Tesla, of course, but that was Tesla was talking about all his adult life in America. That there is enormous amount of energy, and we just need to have an access to this energy. Now, the pendulum is a small object which is suspended in the air because it is on the string. It hangs on the string, and it can connect our inner energy or our biofield with the higher sources, and bring the energy which is compatible with the energy of our questions or our problems, predicaments, and so on, and help us either solve those problems or helps us to heal those problems. In a sense, when we use it for therapeutic usage. So that's I think that's the simplest way of describing dowsing, because dowsing, however people think about dowsing as a specific modality of alternative medicine, it is not. Because dowsing has application with absolutely everything. Majority of people know dowsing from the fact that, they have those sticks and they are looking for water.
Right, yeah.
Right? That is the most popular thing, because it's also an inexpensive way of finding water.
Alicja, you and I have to take our first break, so please stand by. Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Alicja Aratyn, and she's here in Mississauga, right across the lake. In fact, I see her waving at me from her window. I'm only kidding about that. If you'd like to check out her website, it's www.intuitivedowsing.com. And Alicja and I will be back on the other side of this short break as the X-Zone continues from our broadcast center and studios in I know they said Crystal Beach again. That was only a couple of years ago. From St. Catharines, Ontario, right here on Classic 1220, and heard around the world on classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
You are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you, honey.
And our plains, we have a voice that is calling, telling all the world we're willing to welcome them to this great land, for that's what Canada is. Canada is the Rocky Mountains.
And welcome back to the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Our guest this hour is Alicja, and she's talking to us this hour about dowsing, alternative medicine, spiritual, and self-development. Her website, intuitivedowsing.com. So, Alicja, it sounds like all dowsing would do is connect us back to the universe.
That's the main thing, yes, because that is this ocean of knowledge. So we just need a tool, small, very simple tool,
Right.
which will allow us to make this connection work.
So what this does is basically plugs us in.
Yes, absolutely. And this plug was used from the practically beginning of human history here. Just to look into some examples, the Oracle of Delphi was using, called Pythia, she was using pendulum to foretell the future and help people solve the problems. And people from all over the Europe were coming to her to find, of course, those who could afford it, to find an answer to it. Today, there is a very popular part of dowsing, which I'm very happy because this is my cup of tea, which is medical aspect. Of course, we say on this continent, we say therapeutic aspect because medical belong to the medical profession, and we are not trained this way and so on. But what I created when I came here, I created the name for it, is scientific dowsing, because as I started to say, when I came here, I thought that people all over the world douse the same way. And it happened that it's not. Just because North America is kind of built of the packets of people here and there, and because of huge distances, dowsing here is based, with all respect to all dowsers in North America, States and Canada, it is kind of a process of self-discovery, right? In Europe, we went through different process just because in 1930s, first of all, there was a Napoleon at the beginning of 19th century who was fascinated by pyramids and went to Egypt and brought a lot of artifacts from there to France. And then at the beginning of 20th century, in 1930s, the bunch of scientists went to Egypt to follow Howard Carter, actually, and his discovery of Tutankhamun tomb. And they started to research vibrations and shapes there. And in order to do that, because everything was placed on the desert, they couldn't have machines there. There was no access to electricity. Therefore, they had to build small tools, but sensitive enough to help them to distinguish between different frequencies and different energies and colors and all this. And European dowsing was based on those discoveries. But those discoveries were done not by dowsers, but the scientists who built accidentally dowsing tools because of the simplicity. So they are very complex in a sense, but on the other hand, they are very, very easy to use. Now, from Egypt, we have the concept of white light and gold light. We knew a lot about white light from 1930s when they brought those artifacts. The first pendulum was found in one of the, in Kings Valley, in Egypt, and then in Luxor. And then they brought it here, and of course in the labs of Paris, those pendulums, those shapes were researched in a sense of vibrations they use, they emit, and so on. And then the information and therefore tools to use gold light is relatively young in a sense, about 40, 50 years, when we started to create the pendulums which radiate the gold and white light. When I came to Canada, there was no what we call in Europe healing pendulums. Here we call them therapeutic pendulums, because those are shapes which radiate, which can emit the energy by itself, by the shape. So it's kind of like when you light the candle, it releases the warmth. That's right.
Right.
just because the energy is radiated from the flame. The same happens with the small object. If it's based on sacred geometry principles and it's made properly, then it can radiate the energy. And this energy can be absorbed by human body, or your house, whatever. We can douse houses and enrich the energy of the house with the pendulum, with the therapeutic pendulum. And so they help us to balance the energy. And that's why I said that dowsing does not belong to any specific modality. It can be used by absolutely everyone. And that's the beauty of dowsing. That's what I like the most about dowsing. You can clear the entities and not beneficial energies from your place, from your body. You can supply your body with energy and so on. And if we think about it, really, then we humans, animals and so on, but let's stay with humans, we are built of light. That's right. There are particles in us which are particles of light. Now we have chakra system and all this what very methods of alternative medicine talks and refer to, just because we have this light in us. And there is a spectrum of light. So phenomena of, for example, rainbow is a perfect example of splitting white light by the particles of water hanging in the air. We have exactly the same effect in laboratory when we will put the white light through the prism.
Mm-hmm.
We see colors from red to violet. That's right.
Yes.
That's the chakra system in our body, because certain parts of our body works on different frequencies, and different organs in our body responds to different frequencies. That's why when we grow up, there is no kind of mixture of cells in our body. So, for example, the cells which vibrate the same way will gather together and create, let's say, liver or kidney or heart, etc. There is no way that by accident the cells from the liver will go into heart, just because they are not compatible and they will not be kind of accepted. They go when this crowd of cells is going, which means they multiply only in this one area of the body when the liver is created, or kidney or whatever. And so when we are using white light to heal the body or to balance the health, we use mostly white light, pendulums which release white light, because we are mostly built of white light. Of course, human body have to relate to Mother Earth, just because we are living here in this environment. So we in fact are built of light in general, and light is, we can divide light into two spectrums. One is visible spectrum of light, and the other one is invisible spectrum of light. For example, infrared, for example, ultraviolet. Those are colors per se, which are invisible, but we have them. We have them in our body. We have them in very small amounts, just because most of them would be harmful for our body. Like we know that ultraviolet vibrations can burn your skin. So they are in smaller, definitely a lot smaller amount than red or green in our body, but still. So mostly for healing the physical illnesses or conditions, we would use pendulums which emit white light. just because we need to deliver those building blocks to our body to rejuvenate or rebuild what was, unfortunately, well, lost, rotten, and so on. But
Alicia, I have to hold you at this point because I do have to take another break. We'll be back on the other side of this short break with Alicia Exonation. We're learning all about dowsing, and not the traditional dowsing that you and I are used to seeing, but colored spectrum analysis, the acquirement of using pendulums. And I'm sure we're going to
All the old paintings on the tomb, they do the stand dance, don't you know? If they move too quick, they're falling down like a domino. All the boys are men by the Nile, they got the money on a bet. Old crocodiles, they snap their teeth on your cigarette. Foreign types with the hookah pipe say, walk like an Egyptian.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. Alicia is our special guest from Mississauga, Ontario. Her website is intuitivedowsing.com. Now, Alicia, where do people get these pendulums that, basically regenerate the DNA and regenerate the organs, regenerate our body?
well, you can find them on our website because we specialize in production and selling pendulums. I also have a lot of online courses when people can learn how to do it. I have YouTube channel which is free and teaches people basic usage of pendulum and different application of dowsing.
So what is the basic principle behind it? How do you do this?
Well, first of all, what is still new here is the concept of wavelength. So I normally explain it to people who have no idea about dowsing this way, that if you want to call someone, you need to know his or her telephone number.
Right.
That's right. Otherwise, you can try to pick different numbers, and maybe one day you will reach this person, but it's by a lot of chances. Okay, but when you know the number, you can tap exactly into this person's phone number. Now, the same is with the energy. We all operate on certain frequency that is a resultant frequency of our whole energetic body. And this wavelength on which we operate, that's why people often say, well, we cannot find a common ground because we operate on different wavelengths. And it's a common saying, but not many people think about why we are saying that, not something else. So this wavelength is something what characterize people. This is one of the main characteristics of us in the universe. That's how psychics, either they know it or not, connect with people. Because if I will say Ron, then I can reach all Rons on the world. Yes? But if I will say Ron McDowell, then I will tap into your energy because you are probably only one.
Well, I hate to spoil it, but if you were looking for Ron McConnell, you wouldn't get me because my name is Rob.
Oh, Rob, I'm so sorry.
It's okay,
Rob.
no problem.
Okay, so what happens in the universe is that the energy is quiet. There is a movement and so on, but generally speaking, it's a balanced state. And when I will call you, then there is a specific vibration which is characteristic to you only, nobody else. And it starts to vibrate. It starts like slightly moving more than anything else, right? And I can tap into this. I mean, the pendulum can tap into this and connect with you. So I can withdraw the energy, the information about you from your energy field. That's why it's very important to have certain level, high level of integrity. Because when I teach people, I always say you cannot break the will of people. The fact that you can contact someone does not mean that you can do whatever you want. You need to ask if you have a permission to ask questions about this person. That's the principle of it. So when you want to find a wavelength, and there is a YouTube video which I titled "The Wavelength, Your Passport to Dowsing." So when you will hold the string of pendulum very close to the body of the pendulum and say in your mind, show me the wavelength of Ron. Okay, and
Okay.
I will start to walk the string up. The pendulum normally does not move. Excuse me. Pendulum normally does not move. And at certain point on the string and certain distance from the pendulum, the pendulum starts to move. When my fingers are on certain distance from the body of the pendulum starts to move, which says to you, I got him. I have a connection with him. That's your wavelength. I have my wavelength. Everyone has a wavelength on which we operate. Radionics, for example, radionics machines are based on the same principles, that everything has its own wavelength. Now, vitamin A will operate on different wavelength than vitamin B1, and B1 on different than B12. Just because this is everything is about vibration. And that's what often people now say when they quote the Tesla. If you want to talk about the energy, talk about frequencies and vibrations, because that's what it is. We are all built of vibrations. Now, I often, and not only me, of course, but I often make fun of it, that science sooner or later will catch up with dowsers. Because, for example, the theory of entanglement talks about that everything is connected. That in the universe there is no individual particles, but inseparable whole. Which means when you have a cough or a flu, it influences me and it influences everyone on this planet and beyond. Of course, in very minimal, on very minimal level, but still, we all have an influence on each other. So, for example, your very lovely and warm voice touches people's heart.
Oh, thank you.
Right? Oh, you're very welcome. That's the truth, really. Just because your voice operates on the frequency which taps into the heart. So, and that's why some people have what they call a radio voice and some people do not. They can be very intelligent and smart, but some of us are geographers, some of us are chemists, and some of us are just poets or writers.
Right.
Because we have these frequencies on us or in us, and we brought with us specific talents which were given to us when we were incarnating on this planet.
All right. So not only does dowsing affect your universal connection, but now we bring in reincarnation.
Well, it's part of our infinite experience.
All right.
So yes, we can go to our previous incarnations for those who believe in reincarnation, of course. We can tap into those, and find out, for example, what is the reason for certain predicaments in our life. Because if someone never had this type of problems in life, I don't know, someone comes from a relatively well-off family and then experience poverty, then what happens? It wasn't, this person wasn't destined to do it because they had money, family money going with him. Why did he lose everything? Why? And people say, well, because he was careless. Yes, but why was he careless? If we ask enough questions, we will go deeper into the reasons why things happen. And our role in this lifetime, in my opinion, is to re-own those, which means understand that it's not that someone did it to me, but I allow it to happen to me. Why? Because something happened in my life, in this life or previous lives, which made me to experience this one more time and approach it differently. Now, how to remove this trauma, that's many methods of alternative medicine offers, but dowsing is one of those, and here is gold light, because if we are dealing with more spiritual or emotional traumas, then more than physical, which means they did not manifest itself as a specific health condition yet, then we can remove this with the frequency of gold faster and easier than with frequency of white light. Because it's higher frequency, we can say that the God sends us golden light. And it's very possible. It comes from the universe. It is a matter of definition of God and religion one believes in and follows, and so on and so on. So, but this is the highest frequency known today to humans. We don't know. Maybe in the future we will know more. And I hope we will know more or go higher than this frequency of gold.
Alicia, we have to take another break, so please stand by. Exonation. Alicia is our special guest. We're talking about dowsing, pendulums, white light, gold light, how she connects with you by your vibrational frequency. That is, I guess it's like our PIN number, or some positive way to identify us. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues right here from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed classic1220.ca.
All the old paintings on the tomb, they do the stand dance, don't you know? If they move too quick, they're falling down like a domino. All the brothers are men by the Nile, they got the money on a bet.
I love the colorful clothes she wears and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. I hear the sound of a gentle wind on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations.
And welcome back to the X Zone. Alicia's our special guest this hour from Mississauga, Ontario. And we're talking about alternative medicine, dowsing, spiritual and self-development. We're talking about dowsing with a pendulum. We're talking about white light. We're talking about gold light. And if you'd like more information about dowsing, visit Alicia's website, intuitivedowsing.com. How long does it take somebody to learn how to dowse?
Theoretically, no time at all. To move the pendulum, everyone, practically 100% of people right now can move the pendulum. In the 1970s, there was research done in Europe, and it was about 75% of people who could move the pendulum. Now, because of the changes in the energy and changes in our environment and all this, it's practically 100% of people who can move the pendulum. What you do is you just take the pendulum, hold it by the end of the string, and you say, show me the yes direction. And you repeat in your mind, show me yes, show me yes, show me yes, show me yes, because you are pushing the energy of yes through your hand and string of the pendulum to the object to move. And then at a certain point, not long time, it will start to work. It will start to move in some direction. You need to remember this direction. And then you say, thank you. Now show me the no direction. And you start to say, no, 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 show me no, show me no, show me no, show me no, until you will see the other movement. Now you have your movement for yes and movement for no. And that's what it is. From there, you can, well, there are two methods. In North America, majority of people ask questions. So, for example, does he love me? But I was trained differently, just because our brain, when you ask question, brain goes into this nervous, anxious state of, I have to find the answer. I have to give her answer. That's my role in her life. I need to do, and it kind of scans all the frequencies in your brain to find the frequency which is compatible, and says, oh, that's, yes, he does love you, or no, unfortunately, he doesn't. But we were taught, when I was a girl, we were taught to talk in sentences, just because we were using more sensitive than basic, just simple pendulums. And they are really sensitive to energy. Then we were using the statements. For example, he loves me. The movement of the pendulum is exactly the same. It will move to yes, which means your statement is correct, or no direction, saying, unfortunately, baby, it is not necessarily true. But your brain is a lot quieter because you said so. You already said it. That's it. You are not searching for anything. You are not looking for advice. You said it.
But what happens if somebody is for example, they're holding the pendulum and they want to know if this person loves them? Is it possible that they will subconsciously move the pendulum into the yes answer position?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why, for example, doctors do not perform surgeries on family members, because you want too much. You want to be too good, and you can make a mistake. By the same token, smart dowsers always have a dowsing buddy, someone who you trust, and they can dowse for you, because they are not inside of this vicious circle. There is many methods, though, and I taught it on the online course. It's just slightly too long to explain how to avoid making this type of mistakes, leading the pendulum in certain direction. But the easiest way is to repeat your question constantly, or your statement. He loves me, 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 he loves me. So between those statements, there is no room to push your desires. All right? And you repeat it as long as you will see, to the moment when you will see the movement of the pendulum into yes or no direction. Your brain is so focused on repeating this question that there is no room for anything else in your brain. That's the simplest way to avoid pushing the pendulum to this way or the other, this movement or the other movement.
So, all right, I'm having a little problem understanding how, by asking the question, does he love me? Does he love me? Does he love me? Does he love me? Could not influence the person's, subconscious desire and tilt the dowsing, the pendulum to their desired response.
Just because when we say something, then there is a chat in our brain constantly. So if I will say, just does he love me? And hold the pendulum. In the meantime, our brain never stops thinking when we are in beta state, which means daily activity state.
Right.
So it constantly thinks. And this chat inside is like this. Oh, please say yes. Please say yes. I want him. What will I do if he doesn't? I like him so much. I want to marry him. I want to this and this. Please tell me yes. And you are pushing into yes direction. Right?
Yeah.
But when I say, does he love me? He loves me. And I will say, he loves me, 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 he loves me. My brain cannot focus on repeating this and at the same time pushing the thought, say yes, say yes, say yes. It is impossible for our brain to do those think activities at the same time.
Interesting.
So our focus is on, does he love me? Even if it's a question, does he love me? Does he love me? Does he love me? Does he love me? But constantly until we will see the movement of the pendulum.
Where does sacred geometry fit into all of this?
Well, sacred geometry fits into this that way that, first of all, the pendulums which were brought from Egypt were based on sacred geometry shapes, which means there are specific numbers and specific shapes which release specific energies. And we see them in Egypt. For example, pyramid release specific energy. The Sphinx releases the specific energy from specific parts of the structure. That's why in 1930s those French scientists André de Belizal and Paul Morel later on and Chaumery at the beginning, they were finding what are the colors, what is the spread of the colors around the pyramid using the pendulums of different vibrations to find out where the colors are located. And that's why we now know, and it's only from 1930s when we know where on the circle there are specific colors. So we have color wheel, for example, right now, which is very popular, and we say, oh, well, everyone knows it. Well, Yeah, we know it. Not everyone understands it, but yes, it's we take it for granted right now. But it's only 100 years, really, when we know those things. So, and sacred geometry are specific, are based on specific numbers and shapes. They knew this on Atlantis. If we know anything about Atlantis, they also were using shapes, music, and vibrations over there, and energy. Those are three elements which were used over there, as we know from channeling sources and other things. And then it came to Egypt. So they shared this knowledge with Egyptians, and therefore Egyptians were first who knew really very well the secret of those building blocks from the universe, which can create certain things and manifest certain energies in our reality, in our 3D reality.
We're going to have to wrap this up because we're running out of time very fast. Quickly, let our listeners know just your website and how they can contact you.
Yeah, so I have, my email is Alicja, Alicja, at Intuitive Dowsing, which is my website.
Okay, we have to hurry it up here. We have to hurry it up.
And my telephone number is 905-848-1233.
Alicia, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And Exo Nation, if you'd like more information, Alicia's, once again, her website is intuitivedowsing.com. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us right here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca.
And the way the sunlight plays upon her head, I hear the sound of a gentle word on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air. I'm picking up good vibrations.